Hey guys.
Oh, hey guys. I didn't see you there.
Fancy seeing you here. Ned and Nathan and Ned, episode 7 coming at you, the Chairmen podcast. We are talking about very important topics like our hair.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you're rubbing off on me, man, because you know how they say like when you hang out with your dog or like you start to look
So
like
you look like your dog. You think I'll ever start looking like Snake? Then I'm gonna get like. I'll just start wearing. Yeah. I'm gonna just start wearing eyeliner.
But yeah, man, I got the little. He hooked me up with a little mini ball.
I like it, bro.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to get a new level. Yeah. So, what are we talking about today?
Burnout.
You know, I was thinking that, by the way.
Yeah.
Before we get into that, this is like essentially our weekly 1-to-1.
It is. Isn't that crazy?
I mean, if you hadn't come up with like the clever Chairman brand, we could have just called it like 1-to-1 or like.
Yeah. The weekly 1-on-1.
CEO.
That's actually a dope podcast name. That's it.
Yeah. TM. So, Mr. President, what are we talking about this week? Burnout.
Yeah, burnout, and it's been top of mind for me. Obviously, my newsletter is Meaningful Momentum, and that started from a journey that I took of kind of the founder post-exit depression that happens a lot, and so I've got a lot of thoughts on that. But I've been seeing it a lot more recently, just with people on LinkedIn. I've been seeing a lot more of my founder buddies and venture capital buddies who are leaving and going and finding themselves and, all of the above. And it's been just something that I see a lot of online right now. Just like, I don't necessarily want to say like anti-hustle culture, but almost more of like this realistic, hey, you are more than work life happening right now in the world. And like, oh shoot, I spent the last 10 years of my life focused only on money and work, and I looked up 10 years later and my relationships were gone, and my physical fitness wasn't where it needed to be, and my spiritual walk was lacking at best. And I think a lot of times people, especially leaders, can, you always hear the leadership, it's lonely at the top, right? And I think that can be self-inflicted, but I think it also is a lot of what we see and hear online. And I think burnout is very easy it's very easy to get burnout now in 2025 because of everyone only posting their highlights, and you seeing 20-year-olds driving Lamborghinis, and you're like, well, why the hell am I still so focused on this startup?
Right.
Why am I in this job, or whatever it may be? So
okay, yeah, I'm excited to talk about this. I've got some questions around it actually that they might be like you may know the answer. I don't know.
Probably not.
Right. So I too have been. It could just be my RAS filter picking this up. We've talked a lot about our backgrounds, our upbringings, and there's some components of that are that sort of require vulnerability that I'm not in this moment going to go into. So maybe put differently, like there's like a strength and a weakness component.
Yeah.
Because of the resilience that comes with growing up in poverty, the mental fortitude that is built through maybe athletics, through being in a challenging or even abusive environment, assuming maybe that you come out of it. I don't know. I didn't stay in it, so maybe the resilience is only built if you found a way. So I struggle around this topic. In a few ways. One, I wonder, is the shoe gonna drop for me? Because I don't feel burnt out. Yeah. I don't feel like I'm about to be burnt out. I actually don't have a time when I could say I was burnt out. Yeah. Right? So here I am, speaking from kind of a position of strength. I'm not too naive.
But do you feel like that is because you have always been tied to a mission and a purpose?
That's what I'm kind of wondering. Yeah. I'm trying to figure out how to say this without sounding douchey. Because it's I almost want to be yeah, I'm gonna fuck it up. Yeah. like burnout, get over it.
Yeah.
You know, is kind of how I feel, right? Like,
For sure.
but that's like bravado, right? Like that's not how I
Yeah.
really feel. It's more
That's like what Andy Elliott would say.
right, like my inner Andy Elliott, which I hope to have no characteristics that are like him. But there is like, if I'm being real, and I think this is a safe space, like I'm like, don't be a bitch. You know, like don't be a punk, don't be a it's a bad word, you know, for it. Like don't like suck it up, right? But I know that's not the answer, right?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to uh start to process in this moment. Like and by the way, there might be a little bit of that. Like some people could maybe use a little
For sure.
dose of like grow up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is first world shit. However, there's a real deal underbelly to this that I think um I I have like a bit of a looming fear at times. Like, is my shit gonna crumble? And then I'm like, wait, my shit already did crumble.
Yeah.
like what are you talking
I
about?
was
dude?
born in the
I was
crumble.
born into the crumble. Like that's how the cookie crumbled from day one. And then as an adult, it crumbled. I was broke. I was divorced. I was busted and disgusted. I gained weight. Like I had a season in my life, and even in this moment, I'm like, yeah, that's when you burned out, right? Mm-hmm. So the other part that I'm kind of just wanting to introduce into the conversation as we kind of warm it up is burnout. Like if you think of like a candle or a fire burning out, it sounds like something stopped, you know, like, oh, okay, the business failed or the marriage ended or you like literally didn't go to work the next day.
Yeah.
And I think we have to think about that a little bit because I think there's people that are burned out, but they're still doing their job. You know,
Yeah.
they're burned out, they're still in their role. So I thought maybe we could define a little bit, and I think it'll help me just unpack it today. Like, is this a spectrum? Like, or is there like
What's
burnt
what
out?
Webster
Literally,
even says?
That's
What
right.
Webster's dictionary calls burnout. Definition. Let's see this. Burnout is a state of emotional, physical, and mental exhaustion caused by prolonged or excessive stress.
Mm.
So it talks about emotional exhaustion, feeling drained, physical exhaustion, experiencing physical fatigue, mental exhaustion, difficulty concentrating, reduced performance, negative attitude. Burnout is a common phenomenon that can affect people in various occupations, and they say like including healthcare, education, social services, and business. So I think like if you break it down, right, it's this emotional, physical, and mental exhaustion.
Okay.
And I think it's like this caused by prolonged or excessive stress.
Okay.
And so I once heard early in my career that burnout isn't real, you're just underpaid.
Oh.
And I actually think that's bullshit.
Yeah.
Because the more money I've made, the more stress that's come along with it.
The person was poor.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. I'm like, that is the most manipulative thing to tell like salespeople.
Say when they have sales,
You know. But I think like when I think about burnout, and as someone who has been burnt out, and someone who has been burnt out while making a lot of money, it really is this. Just for me, it is this detachment from a mission or a purpose.
Okay.
And that's kind of how I look at it. And like I completely understand like the aspect of like the excessive stress or the prolonged stress and exhaustion. But I think that as human beings, we have this innate desire to be attached to something larger than ourselves. And the thing is that most people listening to this, if you are working, you are going to spend a majority of your life working. And that is why people go, I want to join a mission-driven organization. That's why I want to join a purposeful organization that is impacting people. And oh, by the way, it would be awesome if I'm not, getting paid peanuts to do that.
This is helping me.
Yeah.
wrap my brain around it, and I could have just dove in and went with it, but I wanted to start to differentiate this in my own mind because I'm hearing two things here. And I think it could be helpful to distinguish them. So exhaustion is it sounds like is a big part of this.
Yeah, exhaustion and stress.
Stress, which when I think of those things, I I can't tell you very many times over the last, we'll say, 7 years of building my core that were preceded by like a version of it I had for 2 years before that, which was preceded by a 7-year journey that I had leading up to that right out of college. So like I'm like 16 years. And then even in college, I had my entrepreneurial years, like while building my first company from my dorm room, from my fraternity house. But at no point did I feel burnt out, even though I had felt exhausted for most of it.
Yeah.
Absolutely stressed.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure, right? So that's where I wonder where the lines are drawn. I think you're teasing this out, and I have like hot takes on it, so I'll give those in a moment. But it's like maybe these things aren't the same. Like one of my favorite sayings is, "Not all readers are leaders, but all leaders are readers." So whether you like to consume it in small chunks, you sit down and read books like a psycho, like a real book, like that's crazy, or you listen to audible books. Like every leader is gonna have to consume content. Maybe there's rare exceptions. So maybe there's a little bit of that phraseology where it's like not all burnouts or maybe not all stressed people are burnt out, or not all exhausted people are burnt out, but all burnt out people are exhausted.
Yeah, what I found in just even having conversations with people during my journey is that it comes down to alignment in a lot of cases. And I think that a lot of people, and I'll just, we were talking about this before the podcast, but when I kind of went through my like season of, well, shit, what's next? All right, my baby is now a different company. I talked to a buddy of mine who's a serial entrepreneur, had a couple of exits, quite a bit older than I am, much wiser. And everyone in that season of my life was saying, what's next? What's next? What's next? And I was saying, what's next? Right. And, and I still, to this day, I still like, think about like, what's the next move? What's this? But he said something to me that was really, really impactful. And he said, too many founders and leaders are looking for what's next. And the problem is they haven't found what they want their life to look like in 10 years. So the problem is a lot of us know what we want to do in 10 years, 15, 20, like what our life wants to look like. We have this like vision of whether it be the car we drive, the house we live in, our family, life as a whole. Like we have this kind of like hazy vision of it. But the problem is that when it's not clear, when it's not like, if I close my eyes, I can actually see, and I've never been like a woo-woo visualizer type guy, but I know exactly what 10 years from now looks like. When I wake up, where I wake up, what I do with my day, every single thing. And what he said is when you get clear on that, that's when you can figure out what's next, because every step that you take, the next step is in alignment with that. And then you have blinders on the things that, and so like, even if you don't necessarily, I made a post about this on LinkedIn yesterday. Yeah, yesterday. And it was talking about like, hey, if you find what you love, you never work in a day in your life. And I think that's bullshit, because work is work, right? Stress comes, pressures come, deadlines come. It's about like for me personally, my purpose is impact on others. And that is a lot of where I come from, is like, I want to see people that are meant to be bigger, meant to have more, achieve those goals and those aspirations. And that's the impact that I have. And I even said on the podcast or on the post, like, I could get the same excitement that I get every single day growing businesses as if I was a high school football coach or if I was a business professor at a university, right? Because it's not necessarily the money, it's not necessarily the business, it's not necessarily the revenue target, it's the impact I have. Like it being, we hired guys that were making $60K a year, and by the second quarter that they were at Beam, they're making $60,000 in a quarter. That's what fires me up. That's what gets me excited. That's where, if I'm making an impact on the people around me and on the business that I'm a part of, I can be stressed out of my mind, overworked out of my mind. I can be like, I have no idea where anything else is in my life other than this thing that's happening right now. But because I'm making an impact,
Okay, so that's super helpful for me, because when I see content out there, posts out there around burnout, most of the time I'm so busy building the thing that drives me, I don't read them.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to sound like a dick. That's just me being real, right? So
Yeah.
because of what I think we could help people find in this, at least like get into the realm of some nuggets, and I don't claim to have it all figured out. But as far as like waking up inspired,
Yeah.
that's like I do that every damn day. You know, and
I would tell people, if
people
you wake up uninspired more days out of the week than you wake up inspired, you need to change something.
Right, and maybe a few somethings. So
Yeah,
I don't.
That's for sure.
I don't often claim any expertise. Like I just am like, yeah, I'm just trying to figure it out. But I've got some prowess on this kind of topic. So I'm gonna go there in a second, and you know, world according to Nathan, as always, right? World according to Ned, world according to us. But so that helps me understand it though, because in this like buzzword or just because it's funny too, like maybe this dates me or something, but when I heard the word burnout, that was always potheads.
Yeah, it was like a drug.
Yeah, like I was like, oh yeah, the burnouts, and those are the guys that just like don't do shit and
just
like,
skate and surf and
they're living the dream. Like, they're like cool. I mean, like I'm like trying to get great grades and advance in sports, and the burnouts. I mean, they were living right. They didn't give a shit. So obviously, that's not what we're talking about here, but we kind of are if you're purposeless.
Yeah.
And here's another thing too to just think about. Finding one's purpose, that's a bit of a dangerous game. Like you might go an extended period of time in this life, possibly through all of it, and never find that. What I have found, you talked about alignment. So it came to mind for like the car vehicle. If you had like a high powered like performance vehicle, like Aston Martin or BMW or like one of those Formula One vehicles, and it was in perfect alignment. It was just buttoned up, ready to go. But it was sitting in the garage. It had a tarp over it, and it wasn't on the road. It wasn't driving. It wasn't journeying. I don't know if you could ask the car how it's doing, but it would probably say, I'm fucking miserable.
Yeah.
Because I was built to perform. I was built to drive. I was built to voyage, and I'm not doing any of that. Mm-hmm. So I think that it is as much, if not like more, about the journey that you're on.
Interesting. Yeah.
Than some inner, innate, deeply rooted purpose. And that might sound like contradictory to a lot of the things that I discuss, but the way I've made my way in this life and have found fuel every day, one, the bear has never stopped chasing me. So that's where I spoke. You know that? Like if in fact, because you made money and then had to kind of soul search to figure out the next move and didn't just like chill, that probably backs that fact up. Right?
Well, yeah, I mean, dude, it was Jamie who told me, like, dude, you're not going to take 3 months off. And I was like, bet. 3 days later, I was like, oh, where am I going next? Like, dude, I think like what you're I don't want to overlook something you did say. You talked about like you can go extensive periods of time without finding your purpose, and there are a lot of people that don't find their purpose in this life. Now, one thing that I would say is that I think too many people tie their purpose to work. And I think that's where, like Jamie, for instance, like Jamie is a stud at everything she does, right? And you know, I said this before she even like, agreed to date me, so
Right.
this isn't even biased at this point. Um, but she's charismatic. She's obviously attractive because look at me. But she's charismatic, attractive, smart. She understands business, understands financial. She gets all right, and she's learned a ton just because all I talk about is work, you know. But Jamie doesn't live to work, right? She's found her purpose in life in like the physical fitness, and then you know she's the competitive bikini athlete. You know she's going pro in that, and like that kind of stuff. And she is very much her goal is not to become a millionaire by starting the next AI company or doing something like that. Her goal in life is to be the best in the world at her activity. And that's where she's found her purpose. And I think if before I met Jamie, I would have been like, you can't have purpose in a hobby. And she's turned it into a like career of sorts, right? With sponsors and all of these things that you can get doing that. But I'm like, can you really have a purpose that isn't paying money? And I think that 5 years ago, I would have told you no. But after knowing Jamie for 5 years, you know, I can absolutely say that I think too many people do tie. It's because what you just said about the car is so important. It's like too many people stay in the garage trying to figure out their purpose. And they're going, man, I've got all of this, you know, I'm in alignment. I've got the skills. I've got the right horsepower. I've got everything that I need to do. But they're afraid to get out onto the road. And I think it's when you get out onto the road when you can find what you are actually made to do. When you can get it into sixth gear and go, damn, like I can only make it into sixth gear here when I'm actually on the road. If you rev an engine in the garage, like cool, it makes a cool noise, but it doesn't get you.
I'm gonna keep going with this analogy.
Yeah.
Because I think there's some wisdom in it. So I think it would be naive to think that you could always be on the open road, shifting into high gear, full throttle. And I'm sure, again, if this vehicle had a way to report back, it would be like, I felt alive. Like that was like burning on all cylinders. But that car did have to back out and creep from the garage, go through the neighborhood, stop at a stop sign, stop at a red light, merge, yeah, phenomenal driver. Dale Earnhardt here. So I think that a lot of times in the journey, you have to like recognize that you only get so many moments to be feeling like you're killing it.
Yeah.
That you're just in your absolute sweet spot zone of genius. And it could be like a moment in time in the sense of like, oh man, that like just happened. I didn't even notice that I was feeling really great. Or it could be like an annual thing. Like, that like I go to this event every year and at that event I get to like be, it's sick. Like I'm present, dress the way I want to dress, I talk the way I want to talk, I interact with the people the way I want to interact. And I think in crafting your life and in crafting your journey, people don't like think or feel enough about each moment and factor in all the mundane activity that you're going to have to do. That yes, you're not going to be like living your best life all the time.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes it's like a a bit of a mismatch in assessing the moment. So we've talked a little bit around this, but like situational awareness is really, really important. So baseball, if you've ever played baseball, right? It's I hated baseball. I played it for years and I stopped in 8th grade, and mainly because I just couldn't hit anyone. I wasn't getting my anger out enough. But the part that just like racked my brain and I thought this is stupid is every single play you would have to evaluate the situation.
Yeah.
And be ready to then kick into gear in an athletic way while retaining the mental part of like, okay, there's a person on second, there's 2 outs, and they pitch, and then it's a ball. And it's this whole like, you know, and like, okay, get ready. You know, and then, it's a foul ball, right? It's like all these just like failures to start. And eventually you're just like, it sucks, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to do this. Like, I want to do something that's more active, you know, something that's more action packed. So I respect baseball players for that reason because it is really grueling mentally. I think there's a lesson in that in life and the parallels between athletics and life and leadership and business is that a lot of the freaking game is just assessing the situation.
Yeah.
And being ready. You know what I mean? Like,
it's a good point.
And you only get so many times to knock it out of the freaking park or to dive and catch the ball or to have the winning shot or to, you know, be on a podcast. And it's like, if you are living for the highlights, you're going to be a miserable, burnt out, exhausted, stressed unit
Yeah.
versus living for the low light and then just enjoying the peaks and going, well, that was cool.
Yeah.
Knowing while you're up there, this is going to end.
Yeah.
Any moment now, I'm coming back down the
road. I mean, even double down on the car analogy, it's like that car that can, you know, go 150 miles an hour in wide open roads still has to stop for gas.
Right.
Right.
It's got to be tuned up.
Yeah.
It's got to be. I mean, there's so many like details.
Well, I think that's the reason that a lot of people. I think what you're saying around like these people that get stuck on this high. Right? I mean, you hear it from every. We were just talking about this. Like every guy that didn't get a college scholarship was like, "Well, if I had just done this, like, all right, get out of high school, bro." It's like it's that guy. But it's like I think there are a lot of people that still talk about their highs, and I think a lot of people look at life with rose-colored glasses. I really do, and you know, I've had these conversations with people where they're like, "Man, you remember back in 2018 when we were crushing it?" And it's like, dude, do you remember all the shitty times we had in 2018? Yeah, 2018 we got acquired, but like the leading up to that sucked. Like I wanted to cry myself to sleep every night, and then oh cool, a check hit my bank account, and that was awesome, and it made all of it worth it. But like the steps to take, it like if I knew what burnout was in 2018, I probably would have hit it, right? But like the piece that I think is so important with this is that most people don't actually stop to refuel. They don't actually stop to tune up because they're just like, I've got to go, I've got to go, I've got to go, I've got to go. And that could be, I mean, I would say that it's a huge leadership problem in businesses that don't allow people to do that. But I also think that it is a personal problem. Because if you are looking at Instagram, if you are reading LinkedIn posts, if you are seeing people that are on their chapter 10 and you are on chapter 1 and you're wondering why you're not there, that's an issue. And you either need to stop following those people, stop reading their posts, completely curate your page to where it's not a bunch of people that are not pushing you forward, but making you feel like shit. But I think more than that, it's realizing where you are in the journey. Because if you are just backing out of the garage and you freaking step on the gas and you're like, dude, I'm going pedal to the metal.
I'm gonna hit a kid.
Yeah, dude, guess what? It's not going to work the way you want. I think that's the biggest thing that I see with burnout.
You're also going to get pulled over and put in jail for reckless driving if you are on the highway going 140 miles an hour. I have a buddy that I work out with who's a police officer, and every once in a while, I'm just like, any cool stories?
Yeah. Dude, any of my buddies that are cops, I'm like, yeah. I'll always ask them if I'm on any lists when that person's a Secret Service agent. And I'm like, anytime I see him, I'm like,
Right.
Dylan. He's like, Ned,
I can't
no
do
one
it.
gives a shit about you. And I'm like, yes. I'm like, that's actually good.
Good, that's awesome. You still think my name's Ned?
Yeah.
So I was asking him like, anything exciting? Yeah, I'm just kind of making small talk, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I arrested somebody today." I was like, "Oh, like anything juicy?" He's like, he was gonna.
Isn't that wild though? For a second, like this guy gets on a uniform, gets into his car, protects our county,
Right.
right? And then he just nonchalantly is like, yeah, I arrested somebody. Like me, I'm like, Jamie's like, what'd you do today? I'm like, sat on my computer all day.
Right.
I was in no
Talked
apparent
about
danger. Like, yeah, I sat on a podcast and pontificated.
About burnout, feeling kind of burnout.
And this guy's like wrestling the guy to the ground, putting him in handcuffs. Like,
I say that all the time. Like, we're not digging ditches, people.
no,
Like,
dude,
this is easy.
Lord.
So he says to me that, he's like, yeah, this guy's got like 95 and like a 25. I was like, oh man, I was like, that's a fat ticket. He's like, oh, you arrest them. Like at me, I'm like, oh, like right, yeah. So he just opened up. But what was funny is that the guy's excuse, and this dude, the cop, is
Did he have to take a shit?
I'm pregnant. So he was like, I guess he was like, oh yeah, I'm sorry, officer. I haven't gotten it out on the open road in a while. Okay.
So you're gonna do it in this like
Yeah,
shop crossing?
Yes, psycho. So I digress, but at the same time, like there's a time. The Bible says there's a time to laugh.
Mhm.
There's a time to cry. There's a time to mourn.
Yeah.
And I've always seen that as sophistication. It's just like my definition of a sophisticated person is somebody that knows when to laugh, when to cry, when to bring their voice down like this, when to raise it up like that. When is the appropriate timing? And can they keep all these thoughts? And we talked about this with cognitive dissonance. Can they keep opposing forces in their mind with intention, but choose to believe in one without rejecting the other? Like, this is all my kind of concoction for living a sophisticated life. Well, in life, business, leadership, like there's just a time where it's not exciting, it's not exhilarating, it is stressful. You gave me a layup, so I'm just going to go there. But today you posted on the one that we were kind of joking about with like the high school people claiming they were going to get this or get that.
Yeah, if that recruiter hadn't gotten me, I would have been at USC, baby.
Right. And, I wasn't like the number one recruit in the country, but I was top 25, whatever. And I did do that. I was a Division I athlete, and I did go to an Ivy League school. And if you were to ask me, like, what was one of the coolest highlights of that? Well, we've talked a little bit about this. One of the coolest ones was like the signing. That was like, oh, this is cool, right? They put like a backdrop. And this is 2006, so it's not
signing day was dope.
That was sick, yeah. Like there's cameras. You're like, cameras, like I don't see those that much. I've got foot bombs, like newspaper, right? And I'm wearing the thing and I'm signing. My parents are there and my coach is there. And there's like,
yeah, little do people know you're not actually signing here. Like,
yeah, it's just a blank.
It's just a blank piece of paper. Just
I'm like, Ocean City today is here.
Ours was the Enterprise.
Right, like the Daily Times. That's a Salisbury publication. That's the big city,
I didn't make it out of the Enterprise. So,
So that's a highlight, right? Well, dude, do you know how many lowlights? I lost 2 state championships. I had major injuries. I broke my back and they told me I'll never play sports again. I broke my leg and I was out half the season in my junior year. Like, I had so many mundane, laborious, miserable fucking times in those 4 years of high school.
A lot of stress and exhaustion.
A lot of stress and exhaustion. But at no point did I burn out. So that's where I want to continue to draw the line here, because I think if you're saying that you're burnt out, you might not actually be burnt out. You might go, I'm using the wrong words. I'm assigning a label to something that is just part of the damn deal to be excellent.
Mhm.
Like, I'm burnt out. No, you're fucking tired.
Yeah.
That's okay. Be tired. Take a day.
Yeah.
Take a week. Shit, you need a month. Take a month. Get back on the horse. So I think sometimes we've softened it to where we go, oh, you're burnt out. No, you're just doing the work to be great.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot of validity to what you're saying there.
There's exceptions to that.
Yeah.
You know, again, I'm back to Andy Elliott. Snap out of it.
Yeah.
Snap out of it.
Dude, if you don't have a six pack in 3 days, fire. But I think there's a lot of validity to what you're saying there. I think there's.
Oh, real quick.
Yeah.
Because I feel like if I don't say this, I'll just sound like Andy Elliott. The point I wanted to make there, I didn't actually make my point, was that the reason it was still so like it hurt so good, even in all those low times, is because I had, like you said earlier, my mind, my dominant thought
Dude.
was on a future state.
I think that's the key.
That's where I think burnout is when you look. The Bible says, "Without vision, man perishes." People perish, right? So perish, burnout. Oh, that sounds about the same, right? Like if I snuff out a candle, the candle's perished. The light has perished. The fire has perished. So I think that the antidote here is vision.
I agree. Yeah, I think that's 1,000%. When anyone comes to me, or I read it, or on social media or whatever it may be, and I hear someone talk about burnout, I immediately go back to, well, what vision did you lose? Because here's the thing, like, I don't care if you're a sales rep, in marketing, a founder, a leader, whatever it may be. Day one of you starting this thing, day one of you starting your job, starting your company, things of that nature, you had grandiose visions of what it would look like, right? I mean, when I started playing football, I started playing football at 5 years old. It was little just helmets running around the field, a little fat and just really. Dude, I was going to play in the NFL,
right?
But then guess what? God made me 5'11" and white.
Right.
So what happened? 5'11" and 3/4. Thank you very much. That was me at the combine, baby.
Nice.
Not the NFL combine. But it's like, I think there is like these, you start to realize, like, in life, you start this job and you start to realize, well, my vision of what it was going to look like. And this is where it goes back to you saying people living for the highlights and not necessarily understanding the low light pieces of things, is you have this grandiose vision. There was this one rep one time who made $1 million in a year. I'm going to work just as hard as them, and I'm going to go do that. Well, you get 6 months into the year, and you're only on pace to go do like 120,000. You might start to feel a lack of vision, right? If you're a founder and you're like, man, we've got this great tool and it's perfect for this ICP, and we have this great motion, and our business model is perfect, and our financial model is 10 out of 10. And then you get 6 months into it and you're like, dang, this is a lot more work and we're not seeing the fruit of our labor. It's very easy for you to forget the initial vision. And I'm not necessarily saying that, like, you have to hold on to that initial vision. There's probably iterations and what we talked about last week and changes that you should make to it, right? Because if
pivots,
pivots and things of that nature. But I think a lot of people, they label burnout, but I think they prematurely will quit. They will prematurely say, this is not for me. When in reality, it's like you're 3 feet from goal, right? If you had just continued to push forward. Now, the caveat to that is, if you are in a company and you don't have, you're not a founder, I would just say if you're not a founder, because sometimes leaders can't even make the ultimate decision. But like, I think from that perspective, if the company has lost the vision, or they've stopped making the main thing, if you as an employee are like, I don't align with that thing anymore, it probably is right for you to leave. It probably isn't right for you to say that I'm burnt out. Right. It's the most likely the right thing to say there is, I lacked alignment with the vision of the organization and where they were going.
That to me is the real raw and like the real raw reality.
Yeah.
And if you are building the vision, and this is so we launched the MyCore Academy in the fall, and the first course we did, I actually took it on. It's called the Art and Science of Vision. So I took some time to ponder this and to package it and to think like, how can I articulate this? And I chose to do it actually through our core values. Mm-hmm. So I did a master class on walking by faith. I did a master class on leading with who. I did a master class on measuring what matters. And then I created videos, and it was like a whole thing to build a course, literally a course. So I wanted to articulate, I want to in this moment communicate that vision is not as like esoteric and like oracle and even like divine as one might think. Like there's a true science to it and art. And yes, I do believe that I have these like divine downloads. I live by the Holy Spirit like whispering to me, but sometimes things get whispered to me that I'm like, is that the Holy Spirit or is that lunch? It's like, yeah, you got a bad burrito, dude. You know, like that's not the Holy Spirit. So like you can't just like over spiritualize or over philosophy everything too. Like there's just a lot of moving parts between the spiritual, the physical, the mental, all the things. So the reason I say this is what I believe vision creates, what I believe that it facilitates, what it sort of like puts in place for the people is this infinite game. And you would think that a vision would be something that you could see because it has language like vision, like sight. But vision is a state of being. Mm-hmm. So you're essentially saying, I'm journeying to a future state of being, right? Like I want to be this person. Yeah. And I'm not there yet, but I'm going to act as if I'm there.
It's the be, do, have.
Yeah. 100%, right? So I think that when you are dialed into that, when you've done the work to craft that, to ponder that, to discover that, because it's probably as much about unbecoming as it is becoming. Like it's a lot of letting go of things that really aren't you.
I would say the hardest part of the journey of figuring out your purpose, your vision, all of that is the deconstruction.
Brutal.
Like that is the piece that in most cases people get hung up on because we hold on so tightly to the things that we think matter, when in reality, there's only a few things in life that matter. And I think realistically, I've kind of broken it down into four. It's your physical health, your spiritual health, your relational health, and then your financial health. So like those four things, if those things are working well, life's going to be pretty damn good.
You know what? There's another component to all this that I think a lot about. And it's the word sacrifice. I think when building a great life, when building a meaningful life, when building for significance and not just success, it's grossly underestimated how much sacrifice you will make. And I think sometimes we take the word sacrifice and we lump it over into words like hard work or challenge or hurdle or obstacle or adversity. And the truth is, all of those things you can get beyond or you can get over. Sacrifice, in my opinion, is much more ruthless. When something's sacrificed, it's dead. Like they killed Jesus. You kill the lamb. Yeah. Like you don't have it be an obstacle you have to get over. And the truth of it is, you're handed a certain amount of cards. You're dealt your cards, right? It could be physical, mental, financial, socioeconomic, race, part of the country or world you're born into, but you don't get a whole lot of say in who you were born to, when and where, right?
Yeah.
You don't get any say in that. You're just there. And then at some point in your life, as you come of age, you have to take extreme ownership and say, okay, this is me. I'm in this world, in this environment, in a time such as this. Well, if you're going to change that, like you often talk about changing the trajectory of your last name and changing the future. Well, there's some sacrifices that are going to have to be made that you do not get back. Like, I recognize, I'm completely in full understanding of the fact that I have sacrificed a number of quality time hours with my children to make my core work. And I don't bullshit about it. I'm not like, oh, but I have lifestyle because I own my own business. Bullshit. I am taking a thing that was handed to me, which is a really shitty set of cards called my parents not doing it.
Yeah.
And I'm building accordingly. And to do that, I don't have a whole lot of lifestyle.
Yeah.
Because I'm 36, right? And you could be like, oh, well, that's not healthy. Okay. But this is the path I chose. I chose to change the financial future based on the financial history of my last name.
Yeah.
Right? In doing so, I have sacrificed a lot of fun. I have sacrificed a lot of rest. I have sacrificed a lot of health. But for some odd reason, it's that important to me. And I think a lot of the times in burnout and in waking up uninspired, the person hasn't actually prioritized and said what is the most important thing.
For sure. Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Well, because I don't know if we've talked about this on a podcast.
It's hot. I'm gonna open this door.
Yeah, open that door up.
It's
84 degrees, says my Apple Watch.
Dude. Everything's dinging.
By the way, this is a shout out to Robbie Sawyer, who just sent me a picture of his son's new girlfriend, and don't ever do that again on the podcast. She.
What is it?
That's Robbie's son. So you're talking about this serious topic, changing the trajectory of your last name and your financial future. It's like, oh. She's a good-looking girl.
Seems like a nice person.
Cancel me, I dare you.
That's hilarious.
That's
awesome. So that I was wondering. I was like, I feel like I'm talking about something serious. That
I'm just smiling. Oh my god. Anyway, so
I don't know if I made complete sense, but what I guess I'm getting is people want to have it all, and it's get out of here with that shit. You can't have it all at once.
But you also have to be okay if all for you is a 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom house and a white picket fence, 2 kids and a dog.
Dude,
that's okay, dude.
Yeah.
That's cool. I think we have talked about this on a podcast, but I just say this all the time. But when I go home, my best friend in the world is a government contractor. His wife is a government contractor. They get every other Friday off. They're not allowed to bring their computers home.
Right.
They get off at 4 o'clock every single day. And I sit there and I go, Jamie, wouldn't that be nice? And she goes, no, it wouldn't, because that's not what you want. And they live in a very nice house.
That's not who you are.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not all wrong. Right? I would die. But it's I think there is this piece of I think there is this other side of burnout of you.
What's how do you feel about it?
Oh, it's
nice.
God.
Bring me on. Bring it back.
But there's this. What I see in the world is there's so much burnout happening now because people are going after things that aren't actually what they want. They're going after things that aren't actually who they are. And they lose themselves in the process of chasing this, dream house or dream car or things of that nature that actually, it wasn't their dream in the first place. Their dream was to just go be a middle manager at a large organization spend every night having dinner with their family and going to their kids' baseball games and being the head coach of their kids' soccer team. Like, if that's your dream, be okay with that. Like, you're going to be burnt out if you try to chase the things that I'm
Here's the
chasing.
thing, too. It's so important. If you go talk to a person that is living the normal life, right, as you described it, and you said, hey, are you tired? They're going to go,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm like, oh, like really tired? They'd be like, yeah. So either way, you're tired. Either way, you're stressed. Either way, you're exhausted. I think what you're saying is so important. It's the same, it's two sides of the same coin. If you're living that life and you're having this itch that, like, I really do think I'm supposed to do something significant,
Yeah.
something more, right? And it's not delusions of grandeur. It's like, yeah, you're probably right. Now, assess the situation. Know what you are willing to sacrifice and aren't willing to sacrifice.
Well, that's the thing. I will tell. So my friend Derek, he played college football, stud of a human being, went into construction, now a government contractor. He loves his life, right? Because that's what he wanted to do. He never, like, coming out of college, he wanted to be a police officer. Like, just didn't happen. But it's just like that's his dream. Like, he's living his dream life. He literally lives a mile and a half away from his parents. All of his family lives within like a 3-mile radius of each other. They get to see each other all the time. They go to L Town Pub every Friday and spend time. And, I'm just from a town that people just don't leave. And it's a great town and, God bless them. But that's just what happens. And, for him, if I were to say, dude, hey, I'm starting this new company. I want you to come run it with me. He wouldn't be happy. Right. And guess what? Within 3 months of the expectations that I have, he would be burnt out because he's not in alignment with the thing that he actually wants. If I were to ask Derek what his 10-year vision is, maybe he could tell me, maybe he couldn't, but it would look nothing like mine, which means that he's not willing to sacrifice and kill off the same things that I'm willing to sacrifice. He's not willing to work until 8 p.m. every night. He's not willing to miss the gym because guess what? This new feature set needs to be launched and we need to reach out to these people. Like, it's just not. And
dude, like,
that's okay.
Good on him. Because here's why. At some point, and this is what I think is the cheat code to not burning out. Really, here it is. This just in. Like, if you were wondering, like, you're waiting, in anticipation for the bomb to drop. Here it is. This is how you never burn out, even if you're exhausted, tired, stressed, up against the wall, whatevs. You decide. You make a decision. And I often share this because it's something I heard years ago and it fires me on. The word decide, like the word homicide or pesticide or suicide, the root of the word means to kill. You are killing the alternative when you've made a decision, when you've decided, i.e. sacrifice, right? So at some point you decide what is going to stay on the plane and what is getting thrown off the boat so it doesn't sink. And I'm not saying throw your kids and wife off.
That would be a bad move.
That's a bad move. And there's plenty of movies and literature and parables that would say bad choice.
Yeah.
So there's a structure, and for me it's faith, family, finance, right? Like, that's just kind of the way I roll. It's like, number one's God, number two is my family, number three is my business. And then other things, fitness and
for sure.
Like whatever, right? So I say all that to say that I think a burnt out person is a person that hasn't decided yet. They haven't made a decision, because when you've made that damn decision, you're so locked in on that vision. You're so locked in on that future. You are a dog on a bone. You can't be stopped.
Yeah.
You're like an ant. You go under, over, around.
Yeah.
Even if the current job you're at, career, company, business partner, investor, they may or may not be part of that vision.
That's true.
But you are going there. You are being there. So that's where I wanted to try to introduce into this conversation this notion around the sacrifice, because I think people are naive when they think that they can have it all. And maybe you can have it all. I love what Laura says. She says you can have it all, but you can't have it all at once. I'm like, that's a good point, right? Like, you can have it all. You can have your health. You can have your family. You can have your influence. You can have your finances. You can have your spiritual growth. You just don't get all of that at once.
Yeah. Well, because I think about it too, right? I think it's really easy to point out, for me at least, like spiritual walk, all right? My spiritual walk has been very like, up and down, and it's typically up when work life, like work stress is, or I guess like work is down, right? Like whatever that may be, right? But it's really easy to like say, okay, cool. So what I've done in my life is just say, I have 4 things that have to get done every single day, right? I have to move my body. I have to read a chapter of the Bible, spend time with God, pray, right? I have to spend time with Jamie, right? Whatever that may mean. And, and intentional time, phone away, on do not disturb, like boom, right? And that's the same with my spiritual time, is phone away, do not disturb, whatever. And then I have to do something that moves the business forward, right? If I do those 4 things, I won the day. Won the day, right? And there's always little things that meet in the middle, right? And like obviously with kids and, Connor plays football and track and wrestles, and Oakland does gymnastics and has to do these things, and she's 5, so you have to keep her attention, right? Like, but I know that if I do those 4 things, I win. And I think too often, so many people, and like there's this book called The Checklist Manifesto that I read years ago. I actually don't love it. Everyone loves that book because it's like you write a checklist of every single thing you have to get done. And what's great is you check it off and you get dopamine. And it's like, no. That's too much for the average human brain, because you can't have it. You can't have it all at once. Yes, but you can get really, really close if you just are very intentional with what are the highest impact levers that I need to pull, and everything else waterfalls down. Am I going to be a biblical scholar reading a chapter of the Bible a day and spending 10 minutes of quiet time with God? Absolutely not. I'm probably not going to be your pastor. Right? That you wouldn't want that. Right? Am I going to be Mr. Olympia because I spend 45 minutes a day at the gym and eat somewhat healthy, but if I want a cookie, your boy's eating a cookie? No, right? Am I going to have the most amazing relationship with my wife because I spend 2 hours an evening with her of intentional time? Maybe, but probably not, right? We don't go on a ton of vacations because of all the things that I'm doing and things like that. And, Jamie's amazing because she like supports all of that. And then like, am I going to grow Apple because I like wrote a script today? No, maybe not, right? But all of that compounded over time allows me to go, hey, I'm taking intentional steps to get to that vision. But man, I think it all comes down to that vision, because I know exactly where I want to be. I know exactly what I want to do.
Here's the irony too. Here's the irony. I think you framed that all really nicely. And life be like this. It's like both these things. So, correct me if I'm wrong. You tell me. I think you and I wake up pretty inspired most days.
Yeah.
Because we're often talking 8 in the morning and late at night, and we take a nap every night. People call it sleep. I'm like, I don't know what that is. I'm just napping. And part of this is actually a little nugget in of itself. When you are locked in, when you are so dialed into, aligned with who you are and why you exist, you will feel like life is a rolling day. It's not like today is the 14th and tomorrow is the 15th and the next day is the 16th.
Yeah.
You're just rolling in those days because you know that they're like a snowball going down a mountain. They're compounding. The key is to have this future state that you're focused on. You have to simultaneously be at peace with who you are today.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, I often will say this thing, here lies Nathan. And anytime I get tempted to, or feel like, we're sweating the small stuff, like you're never gonna have across your tombstone, like, here lies Nathan. His greatest contribution was the Chairman podcast. Right? Like, no one gives a shit.
Yeah.
So somehow you have to manage the tension between, like, the epic journey that is life,
Mm-hmm.
and the completely futile, meaningless.
Yeah.
Right? So
I think it is the futile and the meaningless that leads to the epic.
Right.
Right? Because
it's both these things.
It's
like,
just like, it is that cognitive dissonance.
Right.
Like it's like what we've talked about in the last.
Who gives a shit? It's like, well, God does. Who gives a shit what your kids do? Who gives a shit what your wife does? Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I give a shit. So it's like, but you can't, like, over dramatize it to where you're like, my whole life hinges on whether this sale closes, or whether I get the job, or whether we hit the mark.
Yeah.
So it's somehow finding, I call it a relaxed intensity, right? Where I think leaders who possess this energy, this relaxed intensity, are more likely to attract and retain influence, talent, like growth, like all the things that you would want in life that are sort of objectively the good stuff, or the good life. You can't come across too intensely. You also can't come across too lax.
Yeah.
And it's in that where you're going, hey, I know who I am. I know why we're doing this. And it's like for a really strong purpose, and it's like a really rooted identity.
Yeah.
But shit happens, so I guess we'll just adjust,
Yeah.
So anyway, I didn't mean to cut you off there. I'm enjoying grappling with this topic, because I think there are a lot of, like, how-tos around burnout, and to me they all seem like Zen-like.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know that that's the.
It's not. I think the more woo-woo you get with a topic like this, the more confusion sets in with people. Because, like, for me, like, I'm not a meditator. I'm not a guy that has a vision board. I've never had a vision board.
Yeah.
I'm not a guy that, has ever or will ever do ayahuasca. Right? Like, it's just not who I am. And I think for me, getting very concrete with the aspect and the steps of, cool, what is your vision? What is your personal vision of your life? And to go back to my LinkedIn post the other day, my vision was never to start an HVAC roofing and solar company. I'm not passionate about, I guess I'm passionate about both, the HVAC and the roof, because they put a roof over my head and HVAC, but right. It's not like, oh my God, I know every single thing there is to know about a shingle and the HVAC and, like, people operations. It's like, am I necessarily, like, passionate about employee handbooks or just, payroll and benefits? Yeah, I like the fact that an employee has a handbook. I like the fact that, you get paid every other Friday. Like, all of those things are cool. But for me, it's the impact that Profit Share and our people operations and client advisory services gives to the accounting firms, the accountants, their clients that we work with on that side, how we look at people operations from a financial lens and a growth lever for the organization, as opposed to the reacted, oh crap, we just got audited, what do we do? Oh crap, we just fired this person. Oh, we just lost a tech, we need to go hire 2 more. Like, the passion for me is not in the thing, but in the outcome of the thing. And I think that when you can get so aligned with who you are and why you were put on this earth, and I think there is some, I guess there's a dichotomy in this of, like, why you were put on this earth. It's like, for me, I truly believe that I was put on this earth to get through what I've gotten through and be able to take people from where they are to where they're meant to be. take businesses from where they are to where they're meant to be. I truly believe that, but I didn't believe that or didn't know that until probably last year.
Well, okay, so this is crucial to like hone in on, I think. You were on a journey, and like I said earlier, one of the components of the art and science of vision, according to Nathan Bourne, was to walk by faith. Meaning that you embarked on that journey long before you crossed that threshold, before you saw the sign that said, welcome to the next state or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Or you've arrived, or that, like, if you lived here, you'd be home. So people want to skip to that part, that at 31, now 32, you like discovered, locked in, like dug your heels. But one, you had 31 years of life up to that point.
Yeah.
And you had how many years of business, leadership, trying shit, don't work, trying shit, work, trying shit, kind of work, trying shit, work, don't work, kind of work, don't work. And work, don't work is just the Cat Williams joke, but it is not all one thing. And a lot of times people are like, oh, well, it worked out financially. It was great, right? And it's like,
yeah, but I lost everything else.
right, like, no, it wasn't great. That fucked me. You know what I mean? Like, okay, cool. I got to keep this. And typically, even in like a major wreckage, the Titanic, a car accident, a house fire, there are things that you get to go find that didn't burn. You're like, oh, the diamond earrings, here they are. This, was in the safe. So all failure, all burnout, still has shit you get to salvage.
Exactly.
And the key is like, what are the things that
and what I was able to salvage was that all of this all just came back to the impact that I am able to have on people because of my past, because of the things that I've done, because of the failures and the successes and all of that. And I think it takes people going through and saying, okay, cool, start at your first memory, right? And just go and move into like, okay, cool, I'm really good at talking. Cool, check that off. Right?
Talk good.
Yeah, I talk good.
Right, good.
And I got good at it. And it's like, okay, cool, I'm good at talking. Oh, I was an athlete and I was the captain of my high school football team. And when I got to college. Yeah. Like, and then I got to college and I was the president of my fraternity, the president of the interfraternal council. And then I got into my first job and I sucked at sales, but for some reason they moved me to a regional sales manager. Why? Because I talk good and lead good. And like, it's like you start to look at those things. And what that starts to do is that starts to align you, and it's slow alignment, right? I didn't go from having that, like waking up and doing that thing, it's not a test, but doing the activity of that and go, oh, take people from where they are to where they're meant to be. Like that didn't come to me in that. But what it did is it allowed me to start to take steps into a future vision of, man, I just really want to have an impact on whatever I do.
And you just still, what's funny is you're sharing that. I was thinking about the following. I'm curious if we asked all of our listeners, but we all have sort of a moment where we became aware. We became like awakened. And it's often trauma. So if it's like my parents divorced and then I was like, oh shit, and I was 15 or I lost a parent and I was this old. And not just like these major traumatic events necessarily, but even like maybe you found a mentor, you had a career. There's probably a moment, I think, for the people that would be attracted to listen to this, that could say, that's when I embarked on the path of personal development. I was 20 years old and I went through a major breakup, and then I was like, oh, maybe I should read these books. What's funny is that whenever that was, whatever age that was at, chronologically in your life, somehow, some way, you made it up to that point without that awareness.
Yeah.
So you weren't like plotting and scheming how to be successful. Yeah. You weren't like, oh, what's the cheat code? Or like, I got to take an ice bath or do creatine or like.
Well, that's where information overload comes into play. And that's where I think a lot of burnout comes from, is because you've got so much information. But if you just go back to how you played on the playground, and how you just knew that it was like, I should probably do my homework. And then I'm going to go out and play with Billy on the street, and we're going to hang out.
To mention, you're probably the happiest you ever were.
Yeah.
So it's like, you got to factor in, like, do you want to be happy in this too? Do you want to be at peace? Do you want to have like this feeling of like, I'm good no matter what happens, even if the worst things happen, like I'm going to be okay. And for me, like, I would just be remiss if I didn't say this. Like the core of that for me is a relationship with Jesus Christ, like not just God. Like for me, like that's me. You know, that might not be everyone, obviously, but for me, I find so much peace in knowing who's got my back, and then relative to the creator of the universe and his son and the Holy Spirit, like the Trinity, the triune, everything is pretty small potatoes after that. You know, even like, God forbid, something like a death of a close loved one, I'm like, I do not want to know that.
Yeah.
Please, God, spare me that. But God, like, because I've met people, I've heard enough stories, I've met enough people that have gone through these awful things. And here's another part too. Like sometimes I think it's going to be hard for us. Not saying we have it all figured out, but because we are well studied, because we live in this space, sometimes I got to back up and remind myself, not everybody consumes this content. No. People watch CNN, constant negative news, right? Fox News, CNN, whatever your political
all
views
the same thing.
Like turn that shit off. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like it's just negative. And or they consume too much entertainment. So I'm not saying that you have to constantly read every book and consume every motivational piece of content and just be like throbbing with excitement for your future at all times. Yeah. But you do have to have a foundation of proper thinking and mindset and philosophy if you're going to make any impact. Or you can live in the matrix and be clueless and just like meander through life on autopilot. Yeah. There is, I think, a flip side of this where you overcorrect and you overcomplicate and you take the 400 books you've read.
Yeah, that's so true.
Then it's like you don't need that much. Yeah. Go back to, like you said, Johnny on the playground. What did you do that was like? Well, you were kind, right? Be more kind. Yeah. Like,
you went up to people and said, "Hi, my name is Ned. What's your name?" Introduce yourself to more people, right? Alex Martinson says this, and I will take this probably to my grave, but it is, if we think about us as human beings, what are the actual things we need to survive? And it is food, water, air. Those three things. Like, to survive, right? Would it suck to not have shelter? Yep. But you'd still be alive, right? And every day that you're alive is a day that you can be constructing, building, moving forward, taking a step towards who you were meant to be.
I think you just tapped into a whole other thing that we've talked about before. It kind of is in the same vein of the alignment, the vehicle that's designed to be on the road. It's this co-creation.
Yeah.
I think when people burn out, it's because they somehow unplugged, or as you put it, detached from the creative process. And if you are creating, whether it's like with the company that you're at, like a lot of cultural issues, I think, is when they stop creating a playground,
dude,
a finger painting, like literally childlike shit. Like the moment the leaders take away the popsicle sticks and the glue stick.
That Elmer's glue was tasty.
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
It's not toxic, Nate.
I didn't go to school until 7th grade. I think this was. I was eating.
Oh, that was high school.
I was eating deer meat for survival.
That explains a lot too.
Right.
I was eating Chef Boyardee and Elmer's glue. It's mustard.
Like I could have
just like that. My Elmer's glue and Chef Boyardee sandwiches.
Oh my god, that's so bad. So like, if you're not, I would imagine, I don't know if you could take all the burnt out people and say, "Hey, burnt out people, what are you creating these days?
Yeah.
What are you building? What are you coding?"
Well, that's why so many founders, when they sell, it's like, now
what do I do with my hands?
Yeah. It's now what? And I think that's where it goes back to that really, really good piece of advice that I got was like, hey, slow down.
Yeah.
Stop worrying about so much about what's next and start recreating or realigning yourself with the vision. Because here's the thing, is like the vision of you growing this company, right? Let's just say you wanted, you had this vision of building $100 million company and selling. There was something deeper in that vision. There was a why in that. Why do you want to do that? And if anyone listened to my Mindcore podcast, a lot of my journey was because I had a chip on my shoulder, was because I wanted to prove people wrong. But there was even a deeper reason behind that, because I wanted people to know my name, be liked, and be invited into rooms and do that. And so it's like, now that I am invited into those rooms, now that people do know my name, now that I
And would you say you burnt out somewhere in that process?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Okay, because what I was sort of getting at there, or wondering, is like life is not linear, but we are human beings. We're in these meat suits, and we're on some form of a chronological linear timeline. So it's kind of interesting among the journey of life. I have never met anyone, literally nobody, but definitely not anyone that's like interesting, um, impactful, like significant, either in history or like just people you meet in like real time in the present, that can't tell you a bunch of times that they made mistakes, failed, screwed it up, or just like shitty shit happened, where you're just like, oh, damn. So I keep thinking about this idea that, like, even though maybe those were unhealthy reasons, or maybe they were drivers that had expiration dates to them, i.e., burnout, you went back to the site where the burn occurred, where scorched earth occurred, and you didn't just leave it all. You picked up work ethic. You picked up connections. You went into the black box, into the safe that had all the charcoal, and you went, well, this is the good shit. Yeah. And I think a lot of times when people don't realize, and this is just, I'm just trying to, I don't know, like put this into a visual, is in our life, the home that we're in, the materialistic parts of our life, most of it is meaningless. It's not, we're not going to take it with us, the whole hearse in a U-Haul and all that. But obviously, you're still going to live in a house, and you're still going to want to go to dinner from time to time and on vacation. And it's perfectly fine to enjoy or to even expand or to advance all those things. But the question is, like, when it all burns down, when it burns out, not just you burn out, what's the safe that's fireproof that you go, I want that heirloom. I want that picture of my children. I want that back, in the modern terms, backed in the cloud so that I don't lose those memories. Yeah. I think the way you maybe avoid burnout is you constantly check in on the safe. And you go, is there anything in here? Because you don't have some like valuable shit in there, then the inevitable burnout, you're not even going to have anything to salvage. And that's where I'm wondering, like, most people that have made it through life, and made it through life significantly, I should say, did burn out multiple times. So here we are talking about avoiding burnout. And I'm like, I don't know if I would avoid that. I would actually light that shit on fire, torch it, and then take the good shit and reconstruct. Yeah. And then torch it almost to the point where I wonder, I don't mean to just be like clever here, but it's almost like maybe the goal is burnout. like
it could be in certain seasons,
right? Like how do you get to a point not where you're like exhausted and I can't do it anymore, but where you get to like a checkpoint in life and go, okay, my time here is done.
Well, and I think that's where the vision comes. All right, I think like it really does all come back to the vision piece, because it's like the milestones. I think it's and to use the car analogy again, it's like those points are where you stop to get gas. Those points are where you stop to go, like, because I mean, if you go on a road trip with me, you're going to have 3 to 10 energy drink cans that need to be thrown away, some protein bar wrappers that need to get thrown away, right? Those kind of things. But I'm not throwing away my phone, which is my GPS, right? I'm not shucking my left tire, right? Those kind of things. So it's like, I think those are the points in life when I think if you start to feel like, man, I'm burnt out, I think that is your psyche's way of telling you, like, hey, let's take inventory.
Right.
Let's actually take, are you still in alignment with that vision? Because if you are still in alignment with that vision, maybe it's just because you are tired and you are exhausted and things are hard right now. But if you're still taking steps intentionally every single day towards whatever that vision is, then take the good stuff from that. And then let's start back on that journey. Let's fill up with premium gas.
Right.
And let's get back on the road. And the cool part about that is when you get back on the road and you've taken some time to just like take inventory and put the gas back in and go in and get yourself some snacks, you hit the road with new vigor. You hit the road with a new, just like fire in your belly of like, dude, I'm closer today than I was, right? It's like if we were to drive from here to Atlanta, I think it's like a 6-hour drive, right? We probably have to stop twice for gas, right? There's not too much that we're like having to do on that journey. But if we were to drive right now, we leave this podcast studio and we say, hey, we're going to go drive to Seattle, Washington, which is literally the complete opposite side of the country and north. There are going to be a lot of stops, a lot of sleeps, a lot of refuels, a lot of lunches, dinners, breakfasts, all of those things where we are going to have to take inventory of where we are. Right, if we went straight up 95 from here, we wouldn't be any closer to Seattle, Washington.
No, this is why you're absolutely right, and it's why I'm struggling with the language. I'm a big believer. Don't be lazy in language, and even if something becomes in vogue or it becomes in culture, like the culture at large, not just the company culture. It's like, who started saying it? Why are we saying that? Like, can we get to the origin here? And maybe this isn't right. So I read a post, just like, how LinkedIn is, or like it's pretty good at like introducing you to people that you don't know. And it was like somebody I know liked or commented, and then I read the guy's post. And he essentially said, and he's in the accounting community, he said, like, I burnt out or hit or reached burnout, earlier this year. And essentially he said, like, the year started great, and then I took on too many clients, and I got overwhelmed, and I burned out. But, like, I'm good now. And I was like, I don't think that's burnout, dude. If you said, hey, I'm writing you guys from the grave because I blew my brains out, then you burnt out because you died. You killed yourself. Or if you said, hey, I just got on LinkedIn because I'm unemployed, living under a bridge, but I was able to get some Wi-Fi on this device I found. Hope all is well. You didn't burn out, dude. You took on more than you could. You bit off more than you could chew. You did what you needed to do to figure it out, which maybe that meant not getting on social media. Maybe that meant, building some processes and systems. And he kind of spoke a little bit about that. And I almost wanted to be like, guys, that's not burnout.
Yeah.
Like, burnout is this finite thing that is like over. It's torched. It's done. Finite, no mas. And if you're not going back to a burn unit, or if you're not in a burn unit, and they're like taking skin grafts, you're not burnt out.
Yeah.
You just need to, like you said, stop and get some nourishment. Slow the F down.
Yeah.
Find somebody like this to talk it out with, even if it's in the form of a podcast.
Well, so that is where a lot of people, like, I can almost guarantee that guy didn't have a community. That guy was trying to do things on his own. He wasn't going to the gym or walking or whatever, right? Like, he probably wasn't eating extremely healthy, right? He wasn't doing all of the things that make you a full human being, right? Probably whatever his.
So why don't we do that? Why don't we transition? And I know we don't like to take this time and just pontificate and be experts, but I think if we're keeping it real, you and I have some things going for us, and I don't want to just list them off because we'll sound like douchebags. But we've agreed that we both wake up inspired.
Yeah.
And you haven't been pretending to be this person, right? Like, nobody's paying you to be that Eric. Like, so at some point, whether you kind of made it up in your mind and then you walked into it long enough that it is you, like, this is you, this is me, this is us, right? So there's some things, and you rattled off earlier, like really important, like 4 quadrants, 4 buckets every day that you check in on.
Yeah.
So I think maybe since we've been kind of talking about what it is, what it isn't, what it might be, what it could be, if it's even real, suck it up, like buttercup, like all that kind of grapple. Let's agree this. Maybe we don't have to agree, but like we're just gonna establish. You're not burnout. You're just struggling.
Yeah.
You're not burnout. You're just tired. You're not burnout. The sheer act of acknowledging that you're not burnt out is part of the equation of keep going.
Yeah.
Like when you just recognize how lucky you are to even be able to be employed, to build a business, to live in America. That attitude of gratitude, although it might not make you feel elated or on top of the world, it is like a foundational part of crushing it. Is this the attitude of gratitude that every day you get to even be this, do this, have this. So what are some of the things that Ned does on a regular basis to either avoid burnout, to when you're hitting the rumble strips, get back in alignment and back in the lane? And I'll share a couple things. And then, buy our book.
Yeah. Or keep listening to the podcast and give it 5 stars. No, I mean, I think every single day, I think the easiest thing is, like I said, I split my life into 4 quarters, right?
I spit.
It's Papa Roach.
Papa Roach, right?
It's
I broke my life.
I don't know. So yeah,
this is my life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's all. So it's physical, spiritual, relational, financial.
Okay.
Right.
Love that.
And so physically, I just always make sure that I'm moving. Right. So I don't go to the gym every day. Right. I try to get to the gym 5 days a week. Right. Yes. But on the days that I don't get to the gym, I'm walking, which is super easy because Jamie made me get a dog. Right. I'm walking. But I'm also like checking in with my physical being of just like, hey, do I need to get a massage? Like, cool, I'm gonna go get a massage, and that's not an everyday or no week thing, right? Actually, when I lived in San Francisco, I got a massage every week. Like, that was kind of funny. Fun fact about it. But the physical piece is just like, cool. Am I moving? Right. Do I feel right? Is that the thing? Like, I just check in there, and I make sure that and here's the key: is I take an action. All of this is action. This is not like I think about my physical being and what I want it to look like and feel like. No. I wake up and I do an action, right? And this isn't like my morning routine either, by the way. This is throughout my day, I get X amount done, right? So physical is number 1. And physical also is like, I make sure that I'm not eating McDonald's.
Right.
Right. I eat healthy. I'm not a person, I don't like vegetables, so I don't eat vegetables. So like, I take a green shake thing, So that is another fun fact about Ned.
I didn't know that. Yeah.
I don't
like look vegetables. Like you like vegetables.
Yeah. No, vegetables are gross.
Yeah.
Right. And then for me, then it's spiritual. And that one's really easy for me. Every single day, I read the Bible and I pray. Right. And here's the thing about it is sometimes I pray and I feel really, really cool afterwards. And I'm like, oh my God, this is awesome. And then some days it's just a check off of the box to make sure that I'm doing it.
And the key is you do it. And
it's just doing it.
Yeah.
Right. And then relational for me, it is always spending intentional time with Jamie. What I used to actually do when I traveled a lot is I would write her a note every single day. And I don't do it as much anymore because I see her every day. But it is intentional time, meaning from the minute that Jamie is ready to spend time with me, I spend time with her. Right. And the unfortunate part about that is because I'm so cool, she wants to spend time with me all the time. But like I will say, like, I pretty much am cut off by 8 p.m. and we spend 8 p.m. until Jamie falls asleep on the couch at 8:20 together. So, and then I go back to work. So it's perfect. But it's intentional time with Jamie, intentional time with Connor, intentional time with Oakland. And then even more than that, relational is intentional time with my friends and my family. Right. So like making sure that at least once a week I'm calling my mom. Right. Making sure that we're talking, making sure that I'm in touch with my friends that I've had my entire life. And it's, even if it's as simple as like, hey, bro, was thinking about you. And they go, hey, thinking about you too. And we don't talk again for another week. It's just the intentionality of taking an action and making sure my relationships are still there. And then from there, the last thing is financial, which doesn't mean day trade, right? Like I don't day trade.
You're not a
But it's like, yeah. By the way, if you want, buy my course, Forex trading. Maybe
I really don't know what it is, but I get stuff all the time.
Dude,
I get a new follower. I'm like, no, it's a Forex trader.
Yeah, if it's like .forex, you're like,
yeah.
But that right there is, I do one thing every day that moves the needle in the business, right? And so it's literally like, what is the highest impact lever that I can pull that day that if I pull it, then the business is going to move forward. And the thing is like it could be the same impact, same lever multiple days in a row, right? It could be, hey, we're really focused on the outbound sales arm. So today it is, I need to make sure that this sequence is built for the team. Well, tomorrow I need to edit that sequence. Like there's certain things, but if I do those 4 things in a day, I'm good. Now, what's really impactful about why I chose those 4 things is because every single one of those gets me closer to the vision of what I want to be, who I want to be, who I am, and the steps that I'm taking. So the great part about that is that's also a filter for me to say yes and no. If someone asks me to do something and it's going to take time away from me going to the gym, the answer is no, right? If someone takes time away from my family, the answer is no. If someone asks me something like, we're going to go out tonight and we're going to stay up until 2 a.m., well, then I probably wouldn't be able to get up and spend time with God, right? So the answer is going to be no. If someone's saying, hey, I need you to do these 3 things for the business, and they're not high impact profit producing activities, the answer is no, or not right now. And I'm going to do this high impact lever, and that can be a step 2, 3, or 4. And if I have time to get to those, and here's the thing, those step 2, 3s, and 4s could be highest impact lever for tomorrow, right? And that's how I really think about my life and how I systemize it. And I will say that I also do 90-day sprints.
Okay.
Right? So another big thing that I do in my life is I say, cool,
We've never talked about this, but I'm a big believer.
Yeah, I set 90-day OKRs for me on my physical, spiritual, relational, and financial life as well. So for me, it's like everything that I do on a day-to-day basis is built off of not only a 10-year plan, not only an annual plan, but a quarterly plan that's broken down into monthly, weekly, and now daily, right? What does the end of this week need to look like? I know that on Saturday or on Sunday nights when I do my weekly planning. And so I know what every single day is going to look like. I don't just wake up and go, I think I'm going to do chest today. Yeah. I know that chest was, what's today, Wednesday? I did chest on Monday. International chest, right? Yeah, I do chest every day. Yeah, there it is, boy. I need to do arms so I don't look like a 12-year-old girl. But I think that's the biggest thing from like, I'm a systems thinker. Yeah. Right? And so
that's the most Ned thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, right.
I'm about to share mine, and it's going to be like, how are you not a homeless, fat, broke loser? Because mine's like, server day.
I feel it out, baby. No, it is. It's just like, I've just built the systems and they're all aligned to the vision. And the thing is, it's like, dude, I get people that come to me every day with opportunities and things that look very sexy, right? And it's not only just from a business standpoint or a financial standpoint, but from a physical standpoint, a spiritual standpoint. There's like things that have, come up in my life from, hey, let's go be friends with these people. And it's like, well, no, because if we're friends with those people, then they do a lot of drinking and they do things that aren't in alignment with where we want to be. And it's okay to have those conversations, but because I've systemized my life based on the vision, I know that everything that I'm doing today, and when I close my eyes tonight, I've done all 4 of the things today, right?
Yeah, that's
so crucial. And I think that's the biggest thing is vision, annual, quarterly, monthly, weekly, daily. Only focus on those 4 areas of your life, and I can promise you right now, you're not going to get burnt out. Like I haven't been burnt out, right? I mean, it's been 2 or 3 years now at this point.
And like I was saying, and I'm not trying to discount the purpose. I don't know why I got hung up on this, but I just have been like, I mean, maybe we have somebody on that's like, yeah, burnout. It's like, yeah, you've seen burnt out. I think that it's like okay. Like this is kind of what I've been trying to get at, and I know we're gonna land the plane for today. there are very few things in this life that you can avoid entirely. And particularly around success. So there's a book, Go for No. Great book.
Love that book.
Great book, right? And it's very salesy, like it's more of a sales, but there's this one nugget in it, which is sort of the premise, and I think there's a bigger picture here. And if I had a whiteboard, I would draw it out. I'd use my fists. So essentially what the premise of the book is, right, is that we've always been taught that failure is over here and success is over here. And the way you get to success is to avoid failure, right? Like this is bad, this is good. Stay away from the bad to get to the good.
Yeah.
When in reality, success is here and failure is here. And you have to go through failure, get to the other side of it to reach success. Go for No is this idea that instead of calling and asking for people to say yes, you are actually flipping it and looking for no's. So you're going through all the no's.
Would you be completely opposed?
Right. Like and even around goals, right? So what will happen is somebody in their mind will say, I'm gonna get 3 sales this month.
Yeah.
And what they do is they get the 3 sales on the 15th of the month and they stop. Whereas if they said, I'm gonna get 100 people to tell me no, to reject the proposal, well, they'll probably find, oh shit, I could have 30 sales, or I could get 10 sales, because they stop at the thing that they wanted because it was this going for yes or avoiding failure to get to success.
Yeah.
And if you want to spring load and catapult your success and you want to be like off the chart, you have to sort of trick yourself into going through failure. So I'm sort of the belief that you have to go through burnout to get to like the charging station. You know, you have to go through burnout to get through.
You have to empty the gas tank to actually have to go fill it.
Right. And then also like think about a refinement process. Like there are so many examples of where fire is used for refinement, for unbecoming, for peeling back the layers. One of the big reasons, this is a little bit political, but one of the big reasons why there's these wildfires is because they don't burn the debris. They don't burn the dead wood, and they didn't handle burning it properly before it got out of hand. So what I'm sort of suggesting all of this is that like you can burn out. It's okay. Run for 90 days. Be exhausted. Take a week. Recharge. Recalibrate. Reset. So I'm afraid that people could be trying their best to avoid burnout, and it's actually avoiding success because they're not doing the things that they need to do to get beyond burnout, to get beyond failures, to get beyond mistakes and missteps. Yeah. So anyway, I whatever success I've had or am having, if anyone were to say, what's your secret, Nathan? How'd you do it? How do you do it? I would say, I promise you I've outfailed you. Show me all your failures, and I bet you my list is longer.
Yeah.
Did you leave an Ivy League school? Did you fail in a marriage? Did you bankrupt a company? Did you barely have any money for years and years and years? Did you, you know what I mean? Like, nope, you didn't? Well, then you haven't learned enough. I've learned way more at 36 because I failed. Did you lose 2 state championships? Did your coach tell you the first year that he doesn't even know why he recruited you? Like, no. So fuck off. You haven't even tried shit yet because you're trying to avoid burnout. Why don't you go burn out? Get to the bottom of yourself, get to the bottom of the barrel, and then go, what am I really made of?
Yeah, and then rebuild strength.
And then like a fucking phoenix rising from the ashes. Yeah. That's where you come out. So I had a great conversation with a woman, Lynette, and this is kind of what's on my mind, and I think she should speak at the Core Collective. We'll talk about that. But she is a burnout expert, and her business and brand is like Burnout Bestie. And you're talking about, it's really cool. So it's like kind of
that's why we're talking about that. I didn't even know that. That's cool.
Yeah, and what she said, and I was like, yes, you should do that. She was like, I have been in all this prevention space around burnout. And she said, I'm actually shifting my brand and my business to take on clients after they burn out and they're rebuilding. I was like,
Cool.
yes. Like, no one gives a shit. If you haven't burnt out, then you haven't built what Ned built. If you're sitting here going, I've never burnt out, well then let's be honest. Let's be honest. Fucking burn out, dude. You know what I mean? Like, torch that.
Gone to,
You haven't gone to the end, dude. You haven't gone to the freaking, like, oh, and I'm not saying, like, destroy your life. Like, come on, like, keep your shit together. But I think, like, when you say I burned out, the irony is that it's because you left it out on the field.
Yeah.
You wrung it all out. You gave it all. So here's my. Actually, that's just ended. That's fucking mic drop right there. Here's my simple thing.
Yeah, leave it all out on the field.
Like, every day I wring it out. I sleep the sweet slumber of a laboring man every night. I put my head down. I'm tired because I poured out on this podcast. I poured out my conversations. I pour out my children. I pour out my wife. I pour out in the gym. I do everything to ad nauseum. I fucking wring it out. And you know what? God goes, hey, Nathan, you were smart enough to give yourself 6 hours. I'm going to fill you up. And I wake up like, let's go. Like, I'm real. And I don't know, maybe one day I'm sitting here, saying something different, but to date, that's my deal. Is I think people are like constantly avoiding, and really they're just not going through. Yeah. They're not going, like, through the failure, through the risk, through the hurdle, through the adversity. Success is on the other side of failure. It's not a game of avoiding failure to find success.
The end, dude. That's episode 7 if I was.
Good shit. But also do what he did.
Yeah, but also assist myself.
Work out, you fucking I think we gotta cut that. Oh, God.